These 5 movies were so disturbing, entire countries banned them. They didn't just scare or shock, they threatened the very fabric of society, forcing governments to step in. I'm the host of Forbidden Ranks, and today we're diving into the world's most controversial films. We'll explore why these movies were made, what made them so dangerous, and why authorities felt they had to be hidden from the public. This isn't about sensationalism, it's about understanding the impact and legacy of forbidden art. We'll question where the line is between artistic freedom and public safety. Let's begin our countdown of 5 films so potent they were locked away from the world. Our journey starts with a Serbian film, a modern benchmark for cinematic controversy. Released in 2010, it was banned in over 40 countries: Spain, Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Norway, and more. Censors called it not just violent, but fundamentally harmful, crossing moral and legal boundaries. The story follows a retired adult film star, lured into a nightmarish project, spiraling into depravity. Director Srdan Spasojevic claimed it was a political allegory, a brutal metaphor for Serbia's suffering under corrupt leaders. But for most, the film's shocking content drowned out any message. The debate: can any political statement justify such extreme imagery? Defenders say its ugliness is the point. Critics argue it's simply too dangerous. Legal battles raged. In some places, only heavily edited versions were allowed, often incoherent after cuts. Elsewhere, the ban remains absolute, with authorities seizing copies and threatening promoters. A Serbian film became a global test case for censorship standards, and failed almost everywhere. Was it a misunderstood protest or just nihilism? For most governments, it was the latter. They saw it as an embodiment of evil, not a critique, and slammed the door shut. The film's legacy is a warning. Sometimes art's reflection of darkness is deemed too corrupting to be seen. It's not just about taste, it's about the fear of what art can unleash. The controversy endures, raising questions about the limits of expression. Where is the line? For a Serbian film, the world decided it had been crossed, and so it remains one of the most widely banned films in history. In 1980, Italy's Cannibal Holocaust blurred fiction and reality so convincingly, its director was arrested for murder. Banned in Italy, Australia, the UK, and more, the film's found footage style made its violence feel terrifyingly real. The plot: a documentary crew disappears in the Amazon, and their recovered footage reveals shocking brutality. Director Ruggero Deodato intended a critique of media sensationalism, exposing how journalists exploit tragedy, but the realism backfired. Audiences and authorities believed the deaths were real. Deodato had to bring his actors to court to prove they were alive, and explain his special effects. Yet the film's real controversy was the on-screen killing of animals, an act Deodato later regretted. This genuine cruelty led to swift, severe bans worldwide. Censors feared the film's blend of documentary style and exploitation would desensitize viewers to real violence. Cannibal Holocaust became infamous, a horror landmark and a permanent ethical dilemma. It pioneered found footage horror, but at a real cost. The debate: can a film's message justify its methods, especially when real harm is involved? Even today, it's banned or heavily censored in many countries. Its legacy is a paradox, historically significant yet ethically untouchable. Cannibal Holocaust forces us to confront the line between art and atrocity. It's a test of whether we can separate message from method. For many, the answer is no, and so it remains one of cinema's most controversial works. Some films are banned not for politics or realism, but for being simply too grotesque, like The Human Centipede 2. While the first film was a horror oddity, the sequel was deemed a step too far by censors in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. The British Board of Film Classification refused to certify it, calling it a real risk to viewers. The story follows Martin, a disturbed man obsessed with the original film, who attempts to recreate its horrors in real life. Shot in grim black and white, the sequel strips away any sense of style, leaving only raw, ugly depravity. The violence is clumsy, painful, and deeply unpleasant. No stylization, just relentless degradation. Censors objected to its focus on sexual violence, forced defecation, and mutilation, arguing it reveled in suffering. The film's tone was seen as actively obscene with no redeeming artistic merit. Director Tom Six argued it was art, a provocation meant to test boundaries. But for authorities, it crossed from horror into something potentially corrupting. Eventually, a heavily edited version was released in the UK, but the film's reputation was sealed. The Human Centipede 2 became a symbol of cinema's capacity to disgust, not just frighten. The controversy highlights the limits of taste and decency in art. At what point does horror become too depraved to protect as art? For many censors, this film was that point. It's a bleak, intentionally repulsive experience, one many countries refuse to unleash. Sometimes the risk is simply being too much for the public to bear. Next is Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom, one of cinema's most debated and disturbing works. Directed by Pier Paolo Pasolini in 1975, it's a meticulously crafted film, not banned for poor quality, but for its unflinching portrayal of sadism and abuse. Pasolini adapted the Marquis de Sade's notorious novel, setting it in fascist Italy during World War II. 4 powerful men imprison and torture teenagers in a secluded villa, enacting a vision of absolute power and dehumanization. The film is structured like Dante's Inferno, with each circle more horrifying than the last. Pasolini's intent was political, a metaphor for the exploitation and corruption of power. But censors saw only relentless horror, psychological, sexual and physical abuse with no catharsis or hope. Australia banned it for decades. The UK seized it as obscene. Many countries followed. Authorities feared its psychological impact, calling it dangerous to the public psyche. Defenders argue that the despair is the point. Pasolini wanted viewers to confront the horror of unchecked power. The film offers no comfort, only a demand to bear witness. Pasolini was murdered before the premiere, forever linking his fate to the film's darkness. Salo is now taught in film schools, hailed as a masterpiece, yet remains restricted and nearly unwatchable for many. It challenges the very purpose of art, to provoke, disturb and force us to face uncomfortable truths. Is art meant to console or to confront? Salo chooses the latter, unapologetically. Its legacy is that of a cursed masterpiece, essential, but almost unbearable. For many governments, its demand to witness horror was too much to allow. Salo remains a paradox, a canonical film that most will never see. It's a final, uncompromising testament to the power and danger of cinema. Sometimes the most important films are the hardest to watch. Our final film is a mainstream classic that once terrified the world, The Exorcist. Released in 1973, it caused mass hysteria and was banned in cities and countries despite being a major Hollywood production. The story, a young girl possessed by a demon, her mother's desperation, and 2 priests' battle for her soul. What set The Exorcist apart was its realism. Friedkin's documentary style made the supernatural feel disturbingly plausible. Audiences fainted, vomited, and fled theaters. Paramedics were stationed at screenings. The film's intense horror, religious themes, and graphic imagery, especially involving a child, were unprecedented. Local bans swept the UK and beyond, with stricter censorship following on home video. Authorities feared psychological harm and religious outrage, calling the film blasphemous and dangerous. The Exorcist's power was its suggestion that evil could be real, lurking in ordinary life. It tapped into primal fears, the unknown, loss of control, and evil within. Today it's a classic, but in 1973 it was a cultural earthquake. The bans reveal a fear of a film being too effective, so powerful it became a perceived public menace. The Exorcist broke taboos, especially around children and religion, redefining horror for a generation. Its journey from banned threat to beloved classic shows how standards change, but its impact remains. The film's initial shock reminds us sometimes art is banned not for what it shows, but for how deeply it makes us feel. The Exorcist was a film so powerful, authorities believed the only way to protect people was to keep them from seeing it. Its legacy is a testament to cinema's ability to terrify, and to change culture. Even now, its shadow lingers. 5 films, 5 different reasons for being cast out from public view. Each holds a mirror to society's fears, morals, and anxieties about the power of cinema. Banned films force us to ask, who decides what we can see and where is the line between protection and suppression? These stories aren't just about movies, they're about the eternal struggle between expression and control. The world of forbidden cinema is vast, filled with works that challenge, shock, and provoke. They remind us that film isn't just entertainment, it's a force that can shape culture and beliefs. Subscribe for more forbidden film history, and discover what else the world tried to hide.